Anytime you win a game in the NFL, it's great. Anytime you win by 28 points, it's even better. And here's the thing. If you want to look, okay, the first half was a little bit of a slow start for this team, yet they outscored Atlanta 31-3 in the second half. And the way they started that second half was everything. Welcome to the Seahawks, Rashid Shaheed. We've been waiting for this moment when the Seahawks gave up 2 picks for Rashid, and he made it happen, taking that opening kickoff back 100 yards for a touchdown, the first kickoff return for a score there. And here's the thing. Mike Macdonald actually called it at halftime and said she's going to take this one to the house. Several of the Seahawks confirmed it. Mike Macdonald kind of just sheepish after said, yeah, maybe. But let's talk about the takeaways in this thing. And I think when you look at this win, what was really special about it is, yes, you found a way to rally in the second half. Now, you could look at that 2 ways. You could look and say, okay, well, you were tied with Atlanta, who is not very good at 6 apiece in the first half. So there's issues there. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. But what you have to love about this team, last week, we talked about how they always find a way, right, where maybe the offense wasn't at its best. The defense made things happen. The Ernest Jones interception for a touchdown. This time, it was the defense once again with so many timely turnovers. Maybe they bent a little bit when Atlanta was driving, yet they found the way to force those turnovers. Nicky Manwari with the interception, Devin Witherspoon with the interception. The big one when the Falcons were driving in that third quarter, Bijan Robinson, a great back, but he fumbled when Jay Reed had that cast on his hand and kind of popped the ball free. So that was a really special thing as well, that once again, the defense found a way to force those timely turnovers when this team needed it the most. And we're not going to say that this is Legion of Boom or anything like that, although they are playing at quite a high level, an elite level. I think the best defense in the NFL in this 2025 season. But it helps to have that, especially when the offense seems to maybe be off just a step. Or I don't know that they were off a step, because second half they looked outstanding. Darnold had 3 touchdown passes, 2 to Jackson Smith and Jigba, 1 to Cooper Kupp. But the idea that your defense is going to keep you in every game and is going to win the turnover battle, another 3 forced today on the heels of 5 forced against Minnesota, the idea that your defense is going to do that sort of thing and keep you in every football game, that's the stuff that is championship level. Because inevitably, as you go down the line here, and we're going to see this in this home stretch of this regular season with teams like the Rams and 49ers and Panthers all playoff caliber, the Colts as well, albeit losing their quarterback. This is a brutal home stretch for the Seahawks, so we're going to see that really put to the test, the idea of can this defense really propel them as we've seen in recent weeks. But in the moment, it's a plethora of different players. You're talking about Jaron Reed, you're talking about Devin Witherspoon, Nicky Manwari, you're talking about Ernest Jones last week, Kobe Bryant, Reek Woolen are all getting turnovers in recent games. And so it's not like it's just one star. This is, at this point, right? This is not a trend. This is a scheme. This is who the Seahawks are. Mike Macdonald is a genius. This is why they hired him a couple years ago, because he's constantly coming up with defensive schemes that are going to put his players in the position to make that play. And that's what's really special about that Seahawks defense. They're going to carry this team moving forward, and then we've seen that in a couple weeks with all these turnovers. Okay, so what does that mean for this offense? Well, I think, first of all, you see Sam Darnold with another interception today. He does actually lead the NFL in turnovers. While that doesn't tell the whole story of Sam, because he's been playing good football most of this year. At one point, we were saying he was putting up MVP caliber numbers. Then came that Rams game where he threw 4 picks, which also makes that leading the NFL in turnover stat a little bit misleading. It was that one really difficult game that really propelled things after that point. But I think that when you're talking about what needs to change there, you got to protect the football, and you can't have these slow starts. Now, understanding this was a 10 a.m. game out on the East Coast, that's always going to be difficult for any team coming from the West, and Mike Macdonald has studied the travel plans and all that sort of thing. But the reality of it is, regardless of that, you can't start out slow. This wasn't the Rams or Niners, right? This was the Falcons. Last week, this wasn't the Rams or Niners, it was the Vikings. You get what I'm saying here. These slow starts could at some point bite this team, and you just hope it doesn't happen. First of all, you hope they fix it, but if it were to stay this way, you just hope it doesn't bite them when it matters most. And that's, to me, the biggest takeaway as far as, okay, there's so many great things that happen. Special teams coming up big with the kickoff return. Jason Myers with 14 field goals in the last 4 games, which is insane. He's so consistent. The defense, as we mentioned, with all those turnovers. But you got to have the offense figure this thing out and start faster in these football games. At some point, if they don't fix it, it's going to bite them. It was great to see what they did in the second half with the 3 touchdown passes and moving the ball. But the idea that at halftime in a 6-6 tie where clearly the offense was missing something, that you only had 6 carries combined between Kenneth Walker III and Zach Charbonnet, that probably needs to change, at least in some regard, and maybe can help switch things up to try and make this thing start a little bit faster. But that would be the concern coming away from this thing, is you got to protect the football. Even if it was one interception that ultimately in hindsight is inconsequential when you win by 28 points, at some point it's going to be consequential, and you have to start faster in these things as well. Okay, so what does this mean? Well, every time the Seahawks lose, they go on a win streak, and that's what's really cool about this. They lost the opener to the 49ers. They won 3 in a row. They lost the game in October to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Then they won 4 in a row. They lost that game to the Rams a few weeks back, and now they've won 3 in a row, maybe 4 next week as they take on the Indianapolis Colts. So they're 10 wins on the season, which I think is a whole cool thing to talk about in itself, because this team last year won 10 games all season through 17. There's 4 more games to go for this year's club. In 2021, in 2022, in 2023, they could not reach 10 wins. They won 7, then 9 and 9. And so the fact that this year's team has done it with 4 games to go, I think is really telling about the talent, about the buy-in to Mike Macdonald's culture and system. And I think that's a really special thing to look at, that this team has achieved some things already that hadn't been done in a few seasons. Not since 2020 have we seen it more than 10 wins, if they can get another win in the home stretch, which obviously it would feel like they could, but you never want to, guarantee that just yet, especially when you consider the road ahead. Now, the next game is the Indianapolis Colts. Obviously, they've had a great season. It'll be here at Lumen Field, but the thing about the Colts is they did just lose Daniel Jones, their starting quarterback. If you told me last year Daniel Jones was going to be a difference maker for any team, let alone the Colts, I would have told you you're crazy, but here we are, and he has them in excellent position. But Achilles injury, definitely not playing next week, and the Colts struggled mightily today without him the rest of the way. So you look at that in that way, and you say, okay, the Seahawks' chances of winning probably just got a little bit better. I already felt good about it just because it was at Lumen Field and things like that. But let's not forget, that's the first of 2 games in a week. Sunday, a week from today, Sunday the 14th, they're home against the Colts. And then just 3 days later, the Thursday night game, the biggest of the season, the Rams are here, probably first place in the NFC West on the line. And you have those 2 games in 5 days. That is a brutal stretch, one that this team has to navigate to keep all of this intact. You win both those games, you're 12 wins, you're a shoo-in, right? You win. The crazy thing is, if you finish with 11 wins this season, you're still at risk of missing the playoffs in the NFC if things shake out a certain way. I'm not saying they would. I just said you're in danger of it. But you've got the Colts next Sunday. Then just 3 days later, you've got the Rams. That's the home finale, that Thursday night game against the Rams. They're going to be wearing those rivalry series jerseys for that game, FYI, if you happen to buy one of those. And then they finish the season with 2 games on the road. At Carolina, at San Francisco. We do not have dates or times for those yet. The holiday week, the NFL kind of has TBD on those. They can flex them, that sort of thing. So we'll have an idea here. But here's the thing about that. All 4 of those teams are at least in the playoff hunt. The Colts will be in if they started today. We'll see if they can stay there after what happened to Daniel Jones. The Rams, right there with the Seahawks. That's the fight for the NFC West. The Panthers are in position. They would just have to try to overtake the Bucs to win the division, but they're right there. They're playoff caliber. And then, of course, the Niners right there as well. And it's really crazy when you look at it in that way, just how impactful those 4 games will be, how difficult they will be. And so that brings it back to everything we talk about, like, okay, there's a lot of good things happening, especially with the defense, and you are never going to nitpick a 37-9 win. But some of the things we did talk about, starting faster, getting the offense rolling more consistently, less turnovers, that sort of thing. Even if there's only 1 turnover in this game, you mention all that with the caveat of understanding what's ahead and understanding that these final 4 games are going to be all anybody remembers. If you finish 2-2, everybody's happy. If you finish 3-1, we're ecstatic. A 13-4 season, you kidding me? If you were to somehow stumble in this and go 1-3, maybe you still make the playoffs. You probably still make the playoffs, but it gets a little murky after that. So these final 4 games, it's championship football, as Mike Macdonald said. That's not coach speak. That is true. It starts right now. It really started a while ago, but to get this win over Atlanta sets the stage for everything else. And it's a crucial stretch coming up. I can't wait for these 4 games. As impactful as they come, it's going to be a really impressive way to see how far this team has come. They've already matched last year's win total, which is great. The defense looks the best we've seen in probably a decade, maybe give or take. And it just reminds you of the Legion of Boom era. Not saying they're there just yet, but the way they force turnovers, the way they are just instilling fear into every team they play, that's a special quality you want to have in your team. And the Seahawks defense has it. So how great it is that this team can win a football game 37-9, and we're going to nitpick some stuff. Because that's how good this team is. Because the realization is there that they are championship caliber. I mean that. They are championship caliber. Look at the NFC. It is clear that the Rams and Seahawks are right there at the top as far as Super Bowl contenders in this conference are concerned. They can get there if they clean up the things that they've been doing a good job cleaning up. The offense has steadily improved since that Rams game. Just got to keep it rolling for another step here. So I think they'll be okay. Sam, JSN making it happen with another 2 connections. That was really cool to see. So the stage is set. 4 most impactful games you'll see all season to tell the story of what these 2025 Seahawks are. Going to be a lot of fun to watch. I think they'll be all right. I think they're going to be a lot of fun, but just understand how important these final 4 games in the regular season are. Hey, we hope you enjoyed this rapid reaction. Seahawks 37, Falcons 9. We will take that 100 times out of 100. 10-3 mark for the Seahawks. Awesome stuff. We're going to break this down tonight on KOMO News. We're also going to hear from Mike McDonald tomorrow when he has his day after press conference after breaking down the film. But, of course, we're still going to hear from the guys after the game in this one. Darnold, Mike McDonald, JSN, you name it. Going to be a lot of fun to bring it to you. And, of course, we'll see how this goes in the home stretch. Go Hawks.